I'm going to do something a little out of character and put you all on the spot. I know I don't like to do that. I hate when people do that to me. And ask for a show of hands. Who has cried yet today? Okay, thank you. You're all making me feel so much better right now. Thank you. I put it in my calendar. That's how bad it is, to give myself a few minutes to cry it out, just so that I didn't show up tonight as a hot mess. But I guess that's the point of tonight, to have space for our mess, for this mess. I know tonight we're going to spend some time focusing on hope and resilience and coping strategies, for which I am so grateful, how to hold ourselves and our loved ones through this. But I know I still find myself in tears without fail when I read another article, see another news briefing, read another Facebook post from a friend, or when someone just looks at me kindly. It doesn't take much. You think you've cried enough, but no, it's not enough. And we're still here in it, so much in it. And every day there's more news. And every night we close our eyes and try to unsee images that we've seen. And I'm hoping, I'm taking your show of hands as that many of you are also trying to hold your hot mess together for work, for your family members, for kids, because you're at the grocery store. And I'm assuming and hoping that I'm not the only one who feels absolutely absurd and almost guilty for giving myself the privilege and release of crying and leaning into my grief, because I'm busy playing that game of, but others have it so much worse. I know all of those things have stopped me from really grieving the loss of the world that we lived in on October 6th. So tonight, I'm just completely indebted to these incredible educators and holders who are giving us permission and guiding us into leaning into everything that we've been feeling since October 7th. And it's a lot, and it's heavy, and it changes day to day and hour to hour. And tonight won't make everything better. But I'm hoping that being together with all of you is going to feel better than crying alone, locked in a bathroom where my kids can't see me, because we're not okay. We're not. I'm so thankful for our holders tonight. And there are a few folks that I need to thank in addition to each one of you who made time and space to show up. I need to thank the Covenant Foundation, who called us and asked us how they can help hold our community in this moment. I need to thank the SRE network, who understands all too well the trauma that survivors of sexual violence are experiencing in this moment, and the Aviv Foundation, that is based half here in America and half in Israel, trying to hold people in both places at once. Those are all the people who are behind helping tonight happen. I'm also so thankful to point out some incredible people who thought about every detail of this gathering with such compassionate care and pulled this together in a nanosecond. Rabbanit Aliza Sperling, SVIVAH's Director of Education, Emily Bell, our Communications and Outreach Coordinator, Zoe Fleischer, who is here to be the magician of everything technological. And now I get to introduce and welcome Rabbanit Dahlia Davis, who is SVIVAH's new Director of Pastoral Education, and Carrie Bornstein, who has fabulously decided to hang out with us as our lead educational consultant and facilitator. I am beyond grateful to all of them for their wisdom, their experience. Carrie and Dahlia in particular, their immense expertise as holders of souls and holders of people. They witness people in their darkest moments and in their moments of joy, but they are experts at holding people in those places in between. And that's where I feel like we all are right now, stuck in this wildly emotional place of what's to come. You'll hear from Dahlia and Carrie in a little bit, and I'm thankful that you'll hear a lot more from them in the months ahead. But right now, I just want to remind us of what we're here for tonight and what we're not here for tonight. Tonight is not the space for politics. There are plenty of spaces for those conversations, and this is not one of them. We are not here to yell at each other. We are here to hold and hear each other. We're here with I statements, not with statements about others or policies or peoples or governments. You are here as you, with how you feel. And the same respect and tenderness that you want from others here, we ask for you to show as well. We were really lucky to have Dr. Betsy Stone come and teach us on October 12th, and she shared what happens to people psychologically when they're experiencing trauma and fear. She explained that there are 3 responses in moments of fear and trauma, that we experience it in our hearts, we experience it in our brains, and in our hands. In our brains, it's the scrolling and the yelling on the internet and reading articles and looking at maps. And in our hands, that's doing something, trying to feel like we're contributing, to feel like we have control and righting the ship in some way, putting order back in the world. And Dr. Stone said that 2 of those feel good, the head and the hands. It feels good to do something, volunteering, activism, donating, and our brains diving into the problem with rational thought and trying to put order back into things gives us a sense of control. But the heart, that's what's deeply uncomfortable and people really try to avoid. The feeling of the fear and the trauma and all of the emotions around it, we actually try to move away from it because it's hard and because it's uncomfortable and because we're still in it. And we're here tonight to experience this in our hearts. And what's going to feel better about it is that we're doing it together. So now I will stop talking and say thank you for building this space. And I get to introduce one of my favorite teachers and partner in all of this, SVIVAH's Director of Education and so much more, Rabbanit Aliza Sperling.
Thank you so much, Ariella. Hold on, just need to stop the spotlight for myself. I am so happy to be here with all of you. My name is Aliza Sperling. I'm the Director of Education at SVIVAH. And I really need tonight. Ariella kind of laid out for us the ways that we want to treat each other tonight. Tonight is a night for connection. So let's treat each other gently with love and support, no politics, and let's act generously toward each other. If somebody says something, interpret it in the most generous way that you can. Let me tell you a little bit about what we're going to do tonight. October 7th was a huge trauma, definitely for people in Israel, but it was also a huge trauma for those of us who live outside of Israel. And sometimes we kind of say, well, they're the ones who really have it rough, but everything that we read, the things that we feel on college campuses, maybe in our places of work, perhaps with our friends or acquaintances, they're traumas for us as well. Some people may have been activated, especially by seeing the sexual violence that happened in Israel and the ways that people kind of glibly talk about it or else deny it. Some people may have been activated because they heard stories like this from their grandparents, and it's almost like they're just reliving family history. Some people might feel like, I thought I had peers, I thought I had communities, and now they don't realize what I'm going through. So I think that all of us tonight, right, October 7th hit every single one of us. And so what we're going to do, we'll start, we have Rav Sarah Mulhern, who's here. She's going to start us off and end us off with some ritual. Rahel Bayar is somebody who always says what needs to be said and is not afraid to do so. And she is going to kind of name some of the things that we're feeling now. Then we'll have 3 breakout rooms. One for those who want to talk about the sexual violence that happened in Israel. Another one for people who want to talk about intergenerational trauma. And a third for people who want to talk about the isolation and kind of maybe feelings of betrayal that have come up over the past month. After those breakout rooms, we are going to open a mental wellness room, and we'll tell you a little bit about that. And that will be for whoever just needs to take a little break outside of here and kind of talk one-on-one. After that, we'll have a little time for decompression. So you can do some yoga, you can do some artwork, you can learn some Torah, and then we'll finish up with Rabbi Sarah. So I'm so excited to get the show on the road and introduce Rabbi Sarah Mulhern. You'll see her bio in the chat. But what you have to know about Rabbi Sarah Mulhern is that she is totally fantastic. She has a beautiful heart, and she's just a great teacher. So I'm so excited that she's with us tonight.
Wow, with an introduction like that. Thank you so much, Rabbanit Aliza. I'm so grateful to be here with you all. I think as many people have expressed, this is the kind of space that you build because you need it yourself. So it's really powerful to be here with you all. And I want to open by setting the intention that this isn't just a special space, but it's really a sacred space. And what I mean by that is that what we're doing here tonight is that we're building something together. And I hope what we're building is that we're creating a container where we can lay down our anger, our fear, our pain, our trauma, and for a little bit of time, rather than carry those things alone, carry them together. And I think in addition to that being very special, it's very holy and very sacred what we're doing here together tonight. And so in order to sort of create that intention and create that space, I want to start in a place of prayer. And I want to start in particular with prayer, as Aliza said, not because it fixes anything, not because we believe it's going to fix anything inside ourselves or in the world beyond us, but because prayer for me is about rooting us in this time where I think among many things, many of us are experiencing a profound sense of dislocation. Prayer roots us in the story of the Jewish people, in the soil of our tradition, and connects us both, what I like to say, horizontally and vertically, to other Jews all around the world and to Jews throughout history who've turned to the language of prayer in times of fear and confusion and dislocation. I want to start particularly with a psalm among all the many different kinds of Jewish prayer for a few reasons. One is because in many Jewish communities and for much of Jewish history, psalms have been a particular spiritual tool of Jewish women. For those communities where Jewish women didn't necessarily fully participate in liturgical prayer in a synagogue, psalms was always, not always, but in many places, a tool of Jewish women to connect to the divine. And I think beyond this community of Jewish women, psalms is, for me, the language that we turn to as Jews when we don't have our own words. When the feelings of sometimes joy and sometimes pain and sometimes grief and sometimes fear, but whatever the feelings are, they're too big for our own language. And so we turn to the poetry of Psalms. And specifically, I want to recite Psalm 121. It is a psalm that many of us have been saying in recent days, and I think there's a lot of reasons for that. But the reason and the intention that I'm bringing it as our opening ritual tonight is because it speaks about strength. And I am not feeling strong right now. I don't feel that I have enough strength inside of myself to face what has happened or what is to come. And so for me, this psalm is a reminder that I can turn and we can turn to sources of strength that are beyond ourselves, whether that means this community, other communities from which we draw strength, or in the language of the psalm, the strength of God that we can turn to in this moment. So I'm going to recite the psalm in Hebrew. I'll put a translation that is mostly Safaria's with some tweaks of my own in the chat. And hopefully this will be a nice reminder that whatever kinds of weakness or fear you're feeling right now, there are bigger strengths than your own strength. Dear Hamadot, Esayin ayal yavim, me'ayin yavo etri. Ezri me'im Adonai, osei shamayim va'aretz, al yitain lamot reglecha, al yanum shomerecha. Hinei lo yanum velo yishan, shomer Yisrael. Adonai shomerecha, Adonai tzolcha, al yad yaminecha. Yomam hashemesh lo yakeka, ve'yareach b'layla. Adonai yishmorcha mikol ra, yishmor et nafshecha. Adonai yishmor teitcha u'bracha, me'ata v'ad olam.
Thank you so much for that. Okay, it's now my honor to introduce Rahel Bayar. You're going to see Rahel's bio in the chat. Rahel has an interesting connection to somebody else, another speaker here, and I'm going to leave you to figure that out. But Rahel has been a voice for people who need it, and she has really been a gift for those of us who need someone to speak up for us, and for those of us who need help building communities that are safer for our children and for everyone. Thank you.
1 month ago, I was hosting 35 16-year-old kids for a Simchat Torah reunion of their Israel summer tour trip. And just as each of us knows exactly where we were at pivotal moments in history, I will never forget having to navigate the knowledge of what was unfolding with knowing that our world and the world of these teenagers and many of their friends and families in Israel, their lives had been changed for forever. And over the next few days, I think that many of us went back to the dynamics of the beginning of the pandemic. Doom scrolling at 4 a.m., at 5 a.m., at 6 a.m., obsessively checking the news and what I still call Twitter, and trying to process and trying to think and trying to assess why the world felt like it was closing in. And I know that at the beginning of this, I spent a lot of time thinking about the words vicarious trauma, right? That emotional residue of exposure to traumatic stories and others' experiences. And I remember I was trying to understand why I, somebody that has built a career that has always involved proximity to others' trauma, was feeling this so intensely. I'm a former sex crimes and child abuse prosecutor. And as a former sex crimes and child abuse prosecutor, I've experienced my fair share of wading through someone else's trauma, right? You can't be a prosecutor of those types of crimes without understanding the weight of what it actually means to seek justice, of what it means to sit with a child, to ask them to testify, to recount these moments of intense trauma in their life. And as anybody who works in any field that is connected to anything traumatic will tell you, you can't work in a field like this and live in the trauma of others. You've got to find a way to compartmentalize in order to do your work, to live, to breathe, to function. But something about this felt different. Because for all of us, in very, very different ways, no matter what our religious or political or ideological differences, this massacre and this mass kidnapping had occurred in a way that shook our definition of safety to our core. And at that core has existed this undercurrent of fear. The fear as information trickles in, right? The fear that information kept trickling in, that we couldn't even get a handle on everything that had happened, that we kept learning more information, and information was changing every moment and every second of every single day. That fear of starting to hear and read about the brutality, the burning, and the raping, and the beheading. It was truly a massacre of people, many of whom we knew. And if we didn't know, we knew someone who knew. And if we didn't know someone who knew, we felt it as though we knew. And on some level, I think that I expected that with journalism and with social media, with the people around us, our friends and our colleagues and connections, that the people that we've all surrounded ourselves with would lead with empathy, and with the empathy to engage with us, right? To check in, to say, hey, I see what's happening. I know what's going on. How are you? Or how is your family? Or I have no idea what to say, but I know that I need to say something because I know that you are Jewish and I know that you've been to Israel. And so I'm just saying, I don't know how to be, but I'm checking in. But for many of us, there was silence. And that silence came from people we worked with or advocated with, people that we respect. And that silence was piercing and debilitating and loud. And as I shared on my social media platforms, for those of you that I am connected to on any of them, a place where I never share anything personal. You will never find a picture of my family or my children or anything that is personal. But as I shared on my social media platforms, I had never heard the roar of silence like I heard it in the weeks after October 7th. And I'm someone that has always believed that silence is a really powerful tool. In a courtroom, in a forensic interview, even just in engaging with others, even in taking the time to share our thoughts, to pause, to listen, to be silent. But the difference is that the silence over the past month has come with a thickness that felt like we were walking through like a room full of molasses. And as days turned into weeks, the silence turned into something else. It turned into a feeling of gaslighting, of delegitimizing what had occurred and what was occurring, of dehumanization, of anti-Semitism, of calls for annihilation, of a feeling like our entire world has turned upside down, but we're sitting there all on our own, not knowing how to navigate, how to engage, and how to talk. Because that silence was all about accusations of staging and faking and fake news and things that I don't believe that any of us were prepared to have to navigate in the month of October. And I think the biggest shock to so many of our systems, one of the biggest gut punches that I felt, was watching thoughtful, kind advocates of important causes, professional and activists who were so quick to turn the clocks back on a time before Me Too, right? People who were so comfortable and so proud to post that no one should assume that a rape occurred until we have proof or video footage or really a true story from the recitation of a survivor. And I have to tell you that in my life as a sex crimes prosecutor, of the hundreds and hundreds of cases that I had 2 cases with video footage, 2, in all my years of being a prosecutor. But somehow the years of work to create a mindset of believe victim survivors or believe women or believe children or believe people felt as though it was turned around on us, as though those people weren't the people that we should believe because they were Jewish or because they were Israeli. And that was such a gut punch to so many of us. I mean, how do you reconcile having to explain why a beheading or a rape is so horrific when we shouldn't have to? How do you navigate knowing that there are so many that are proud to tear down posters of kidnapped children? How do you function or work or parent through a collective trauma when you have no idea what the ending is going to be. And on some level, many have expressed, we lost so much on October 7th, and we continue to lose so much, and yet we're here, and we move forward. And though nuance feels like it has died, a very, very painful death, and many of us feel broken, we are here, and there is room for nuance and care and empathy and compassion and our voices. But we need community in order to use them. And that is hard at a time like this. And so as we move forward, we create new spaces and we use our voices. And every single day, that means something different to each of us.
Thank you so much, Rahel. Thank you for giving words to what we're all feeling now. At this point, we are going to go into 3 different breakout rooms, and I want to invite our facilitators for each of the rooms to tell us a little bit about what to expect in each room, and then you can choose which breakout room you want to go to. So, Rabbi Sarah Mulhern, do you want to start us off?
Sure. In my breakout room, we're going to hold space for some of the feelings that were just so beautifully given voice to, feelings of loneliness over the last month, maybe feelings of betrayal, or for some of us, feelings of conflict between different identities and communities that we feel rooted in. And we're going to spend most of our time in a guided writing exercise to work with some of those feelings together.
Thank you. Meira Ellias.
Hi, my name is Meira Ellias, pronouns she, her. I'm a clinical social worker and I'm co-owner of the group practice Good Company Therapy Group in the DMV area. I have over a decade of experience in the field of trauma, and if you end up in my support space tonight, you can expect to hear from me on some of the questions that you have and to spend some time sharing your thoughts in the chat and hopefully live. The goal is to find a safe space, whether you're a survivor or an ally of someone who is, for all who are experiencing this so deeply.
Thank you so much. And Natalie Block-Levin.
Hi, everyone. I'm a licensed clinical social worker in the Northern Virginia area. My breakout room is for those of you that may be struggling with the activation of your own legacy of trauma as you process October 7th and what has followed. In this room, you can expect a basic overview, an exploration of the concept of intergenerational trauma, how it might be currently impacting you, and some strategies for coping.
Great, thank you so much. So I think
But our goal is not to only dwell in this valley of tears and is not to stay here for the long term. We hope to gradually take the steps forward that will bring us to a place of greater healing. And so the second part of tonight's program is all about that, healing. Before I introduce the rejuvenating opportunities awaiting you in a couple of minutes, I want to highlight another amazing healing opportunity that is coming up on Friday, November 17th, SVIVAH's second spiritual office hour. SVIVAH will share with everyone a she'elat liba, a core question, or a question that rests on our hearts. You will have the opportunity to respond to this question in a number of ways, private and anonymous, or with others in the community. One truly special way that you're invited to engage with this question is to sign up for a one-on-one Zoom time slot with a compassionate Jewish chaplain or rabbi, where you will be heard and held in a remarkable way. Please look out for information about that in the coming weeks. Now, let us take one step forward together towards healing. I invite you to select one of the following beautiful 4 spaces. In the main room, you'll have the opportunity to learn from Torah scholar Rabbanit Aliza, who will be teaching the Torah of hope and resilience. In breakout room number 1, you'll have the opportunity to join with yoga therapist Halli Faulkner for easy yoga, meditation to relieve stress and to help you rest. In breakout room 2, you have the opportunity to join experiential art educator Liba Zweigbaum Herman for a therapeutic art experience. And if you're feeling activated and just want to speak with someone one-on-one or in a small group, breakout room 3 is still open for you, the mental breakout room with Janet Yassen.
From the time of Elul before Rosh Hashanah until Shmini Atzeret, until the holiday that comes right after Sukkot. And it happened to be that October 7th was Shmini Atzeret, so it was the last day that we were saying this psalm every single day. And like, I always look forward to the time of the year when we say this psalm, and I'm always really sad when it's the last day. So over the past few weeks since October 7th, I've gone back to the psalm because even though you're not really supposed to say it now, it just felt like it really spoke to me. And so in preparation for speaking with you and learning with you, I thought I would take a deep dive into Psalm 27 with you and try to understand what it's about and what it can give us. Okay, so I even prepared a PowerPoint to show you. So we're going to try that and see how it goes. Here we go. Okay, let's go to. Okay, is everybody able? Ariella, can you give me a thumbs up if you see the PowerPoint? Great. Okay. Okay, great. Here we go. So we are talking about Psalm 27. And I gave it to you first in Hebrew. We're not going to read all of it in Hebrew, and most of what we're going to do together is going to be in English. But you might recognize the beginning. LeDavid, Hashem ori v'yish'i mimi ira. Hashem ma'oz chayai mimi afchad. To David, or of David, God is my light and my salvation. From who will I fear? Who will I fear? God is the strength of my life. From whom will I be frightened? Right? And you can just hear all of a sudden, this is exactly our experience. I'm going to read the rest of it in English. The Lord is my light and my help. Whom should I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Whom should I dread? When evil people assail me to devour my flesh, it is they, my foes and my enemies, who stumble and fail. Should an army besiege me, my heart would have no fear. Should war beset me, still would I be confident. One thing I ask of the Lord, only that do I seek, to live in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to gaze upon the beauty of the Lord, to frequent God's temple. God will shelter me in God's pavilion. Oops, sorry. Go back. On an evil day, grant me the protection of God's tent. Raise me high above a rock. Now is my head high over my enemies round about it. I sacrifice in his tent with shouts of joy, singing and chanting a hymn to the Lord. Hear, O Lord, when I cry aloud, have mercy on me, answer me. To you my heart says, seek my face. O Lord, I seek your face. Do not hide your face from me. Do not thrust aside your servant in anger. You have ever been my help. Do not forsake me. Do not abandon me, O God, my deliverer. Though my father and mother abandon me, the Lord will take me in. Show me your way, O Lord, and lead me on a level path because of my watchful foes. Do not subject me to the will of my foes, for false witnesses and unjust accusers, and just for a little extra, it says Vifech Hamas, have appeared against me. Had I not the assurance that I would enjoy the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living? Look to the Lord, be strong and of good courage. Oh, look to the Lord. So what I want to ask you to do, this is kind of an overwhelming psalm, is choose a word or a phrase from this psalm that really speaks to you and put it in the chat. Okay, so I'll give you a little time to look for it, and then I'm going to stop the share so we can all see the chat and see each other's faces. Okay, so choose one word, one phrase, something that really speaks to you from the psalm, and put it in the chat. Okay. All right. Okay, great. So, good courage, do not hide. Unjust accusers, hear. God will shelter me. Seek my face, shouts of joy. Land of the living, seek my face again. Protection, evil men, do not hide your face. Should war besiege me still, I would be confident. Be strong and of good courage. Raise me high upon a rock. Abandon me. One thing I ask, gratitude. Never abandon me. Do not hide your face from me. Dwell, look, kaveh, armies against me. Whom should I fear? Still I would be confident. The Lord is the stronghold of my life. What beautiful concepts, right? The one thing that you might notice, right, if you look at this psalm again, is that it's almost like the first half of the psalm and the second half of the psalm are contradictory, right? Because the first half of the psalm is all about how I have confidence in God, even if there are evil people who are going to attack me. I know that God is with me. I have no fear. All I want to do is sit in God's house. That's the first half of the psalm. And then you've got the second half of the psalm. It's so interesting to me which of you in the chat put pieces from the first half and who put pieces in from the second half. The second half is, oh God, I don't know what's happening. I'm so scared. I have nothing. Please help me. Please save me. I don't know what I'm going to do. Right? So let's look at that together and let's see that a little bit more clearly, because I think it's so interesting that we've got this one psalm. It starts off one way with a lot of confidence, and then it goes after verse 6, it's almost like a different psalm. And I think in some ways it's kind of, it kind of exemplifies some of the ways that I've been feeling in the course of the day. And maybe some ways that you've been feeling as well. So I'm going to share my screen again so we can look at the first half and then the second half of the psalm. Okay. Here we go. Okay, this is the first half. I'm just going to move your faces so I can see it. Okay, of David, right? Now, just imagine, right? This is confident. The Lord is my light and my help. Whom should I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Whom should I dread? Even though evil men come to devour my flesh, it is they, my foes and my enemies, who stumble and fall. Should an army besiege me, my heart would have no fear. Should war beset me, still would I be confident. Right? You see in the beginning, right? You see somebody who is supremely confident. That's why I kind of put this little image here, right? Which I thought really kind of shows what the psalmist is feeling, right? Like, God, you've got me, right? I'm not scared of anything because I know that I am in the palm of your hand, right? He will shelter me in his pavilion on an evil day. Let's go back, sorry. Grant me the protection of his tent, raise me high above a rock. Now is my head high over my enemies, right? And there's this sense that God is with me. Nothing bad is going to happen to me, right? Whom should I fear? Whom should I dread? But then we've got the second half of the psalm, okay? And then it's totally different. Hear, O Lord, when I cry aloud, have mercy on me, answer me, right? Please, God, you're not listening. I don't hear you listening to me. Please answer me, but I don't hear you. To you, my heart says, seek my face. O Lord, I seek your face. Do not hide your face from me. Do not thrust aside your servant in anger. You've ever been my help, right? In the past, you've been my help. Do not forsake me. Do not abandon me, O God, my deliverer. Though my father and mother abandon me, right? I've got nothing. The Lord will take me in. And I kind of read that as a question. Show me your way, O Lord. Lead me on a level path because of all my enemies. Do not subject me to the will of my foes. I'm feeling so vulnerable right now. I'm so scared, right? And it's almost, and then in 13 is so interesting. Had I not the assurance that I would enjoy the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living, it's kind of half a sentence, right? It's almost like they can't even come to say, well, I believe that God is going to help me. I know God is going to be with me, right? It's almost like the psalmist's voice trails off here, right? Like, I'm scared. I don't have the confidence that I had a few verses ago. I'm afraid of what's going to happen to me. Okay, so the question is, right? How do you have one psalm that's so internally contradictory, right? And I wonder what you think. Like, put in the chat how you would make sense of this psalm, right? Unless somebody took two psalms and they just like squished them together, right? There's it seems to be one psalm, right? And it's like, God, you have me. Oh God, I can't even see your face. Yeah, so Estelle is saying we can be brave and afraid at the same time. Erica is saying the contradictions make it more authentic to real life. Julie says the emotions are fleeting and we do feel strong, and then vulnerable and afraid. iPhone says confused and scared. Emily says faith comes in waves, right? And I agree with all of you. I think that this is really how we experience faith, right? Sometimes we say, God, I know you have me, right? It could be at different points in your life, right? And some points you're just like, okay, I've got this, I feel it. And other times in your life you say, I'm so scared. I don't have anyone holding me right now. I don't have any sources of support right now, right? So it could be different times in your life, or it could be that this is just the experience of faith, even on a day-to-day level, right? Within the day. Sometimes you're feeling confident, God is going to get us out of this, right? Or whatever, it might be the divine, right? Or whatever it is that you think of, right? And sometimes the army will get us out of this, the state of Israel will get us out of this, good leadership will get us out of this, right? And sometimes it's just like, I don't know, I can't see any way out. And we've got the psalmist who's holding both in the same psalm, which I think is so beautiful. Now, the very end of the psalm, where he goes back and forth, right? Oh God, you've got me. Oh God, I don't even know where you are, right? Ends with this really interesting verse. So I'm going to share my screen, and I'd love to hear from you what you think about the way that the psalmist kind of tries to bring together, right, these two experiences. So we're going to skip this part, okay, because as a teacher, I always put in too much stuff, okay, and we will go on here. This is our last verse, the last pasuk, and it says, Kaveh el Hashem, chazak v'ametz libecha, v'kaveh el Hashem. And I remember one of you put that in the chat, kaveh, right? Look to the Lord, be strong and of good courage. Oh, look to the Lord. Okay, or that word kaveh is like tikva, is like hope, right? It's like our Israeli national anthem of hatikva, the hope. So it seems like the psalmist is saying, you can be confident and you can be broken, right? And what should you do? You should do this thing called kaveh. You should do this thing of looking, of hoping, right? And that is the solution. So I wanted to take a couple minutes and just hear from you and talk with you about what that means, right? What does it mean that hope, or looking toward God, or looking toward whatever is a pillar for you, right? In what way does that make things better, right? How is that an answer? So you can come off mute or you can put in the chat. What do you think?
Am I?
Yeah, go ahead.
It prevents you from feeling like you're drowning.
Yeah, tell me more about that.
It prevents you from feeling like you're drowning, or that, I mean, obviously, like you mentioned, hope.
Mm-hmm.
It gives you a sense of hope when things feel hopeless.
Yeah.
So.
Yes, thank you, Sarah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So it gives you a sense that maybe there's still something out there, right? You might feel like you're drowning, but you can look up, you can look to something. I'm looking also at the I'm looking at the chat as well. Yeah. Hope is what got us through the painful parts of our history. There's a bigger picture, an antidote to despair, right? Doubt is an essential part of the faith experience. Notice, right, that the psalmist says, look, have faith, strengthen your heart, and do it again, right? It's almost like there's not one answer, right? It's not like, okay, have hope and everything will be okay. It's the psalmist saying there's a process, this never-ending process that you have to go through. It's the kaveh, right? Have hope. Then, even if it doesn't work, strengthen your heart. Then go back to the hope. And it's almost like you hear the psalmist say, then strengthen your heart, then cry, then hope, right? It's this never-ending process. And if you look at some of the midrashim about this, they say that what David is saying is, you can't stop, right? You have to just keep hoping. You have to keep looking to something. So that's one answer. I see also God has a plan. Be the reality you wish to create. It's a choice. Hope is a choice, right? Giving permission to yourself to not be scared, to be optimistic, resilience, an act of faith, right? I see so many beautiful answers. I want to add that I want to add two things. One is that from the very beginning of our journey as Jewish people, as the people of the covenant, when God brought us into the covenant, God said to Abraham, right, Yadoa Teda, you should know that your children are going to go down to Egypt and that they will be subjugated and things will be very bad for them. And you should also know that they're going to come out. I'll bring them out of Egypt, even though it'll seem totally insane to anyone that this little tribe will be able to go out of Egypt. And there's a midrash there that says, that's what we have to do in our lives. We have to hold the yadoa and we have to hold the teda. You have to hold one kind of knowing and you have to hold the other kind of knowing. You have to hold the kind of knowing, which is, there's so many people who died on November 7th. There are so many families who are shattered. There are so many hostages in Gaza. It's so hard to see a way out. And that's one kind of yadoa, one kind of knowing. And it's really important to hold on to. But the other part, we have to always keep a balance because you also need the teda. You also need the part that says that you hope, or you have conviction, or you have faith, where the other part of yourself says, yes, and things will get better. And I don't know how, but things will get better. And those two parts, the yadoa and the teda, need to be part of what it means to be a Jewish person, right? To know what's in front of you, what your eyes can see, and to know what's beyond that, because we have a history and we have a faith and we know that that can happen. Ariella, how am I doing for time? 2 minutes? Okay. All right, I want to invite some comments because I don't want to just keep going on and on. Laura, I want to talk to you at the end. Can you stay on until the end so that we can talk? Great. Yeah, Sarah.
So I can't, when you were talking, I was thinking like this is a very cyclical, it's a very cyclical psalm, and we say it for 40 days at a period of time where also we don't know what the fate, what our fate really is and what it will be. And I get to the end of this psalm and I've myself taught this before, and it's like a softening into like, I want to be strong. Like I started off like I really wanted to be strong and brave. And then like some things have happened, but the only way that I can get back to a place of